Okay, thank you so much. Now I'm asking the other students to join. Okay, thank you so much. Now I'm asking the other students to join. Okay, thank you so much. Now I'm asking the
चलो ज्यादा देर नहीं होना। हिम्मत नहीं आया मेरा मैसेज। कहाँ देखो?
Good morning, Das sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
कैसे हैं सर?
ठीक हूँ सर.
बस हम लोग 1-2 मिनट में we will begin.
Okay.
We are just waiting for our speaker to join.
Okay,
So,
sir. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Good morning. अखलाक सर, हाँ, yes.
जी आदाब. गुड मॉर्निंग.
जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर. Good morning, sir.
गुड मॉर्निंग.
सर, आप कैसे हैं? अच्छे हैं?
ठीक है, ठीक है.
चलिए, अल्लाह का शुक्र है. सर, मैं बस वीडियो ऑन कर लेता हूँ, रिकॉर्डिंग ऑन कर लेता हूँ, उसके बाद इंशाल्लाह शुरू करता हूँ.
बेहतर.
Good morning, everybody. A very warm winter good morning. Best wishes from our side. As you know that we have organized this session to listen to a great researcher of the country nowadays, Professor Akhlaq Ahan Sahab. And this particular event, which is named as Cafe Culturalis, was conceptualized last year by the students of our literary and cultural wing, which is called as a SPARC, Society for Promotion of Art and Culture, which is a student wing looking after the literary and cultural events and activities in the college campus of Karim City College. And it is also supported and jointly organized by the postgraduate department of English, Karim City College. So as audience, we have here the students of the English department and the students who are associated with the literary and cultural activities of SPARC in the campus. We also have a few teachers from different departments. Like Sandhya ma'am is here, Ashok Das sir is here. We also have a few students from the history department. So on behalf of all these students, on behalf of all these participants, we very heartily welcome our resource person today. And also, on behalf of our management, the college management of Karim City College, the staff and non-teaching staff and the teaching staff of the college, हम सब लोग मिल करके प्रोफेसर अखलाक आहन साहब का दिल की गहराइयों से इस्तकबाल करते हैं. हार्टीएस्ट वेलकम टू यू सर. जैसा कि वी नो दैट this particular event is dedicated to sensitize our student folk, the youth brigade of this country, regarding the rich cultural legacies across the globe, the rich cultural heritage across the globe, ताकि वो हमारी दुनिया की यूनिवर्सल ब्रदरहुड के कॉन्सेप्ट को लेकर के दुनिया की जो बेहतरीन सकाफती और तहजीबी, आई मीन लिटरेरी, कल्चरल, सिविलाइजेशनल जो कोशिशें दुनिया की में हुई हैं, इंसानों की तरफ से हुई हैं, उसके प्रति वो आगाह हों, उससे वो वाकिफ हों. सो दैट इज द आइडिया बेसिकली, टू सेंसिटाइज अवर स्टूडेंट्स. And as you know that the topic of today has three different dimensions. It has Sufism from the side of Roomi. It has the great Silk Route, the great trade and cultural route of the world. And it also has the involvement of our Indian subcontinent. The Silk Route, जिसको हम लोग उर्दू में और पर्शो अरबिक डिक्शनरी में शाहराह रेशम कहते हैं, दुनिया का एक बहुत ही अहम तरीन रूट रहा है हमेशा से. शाह बादशाह से एसोसिएटेड वर्ड है, आप जानते हैं, और राह इज रास्ता. तो एक ऐसा रास्ता जो रास्तों का भी रास्ता है, रास्तों का भी बादशाह है. वी आर गोइंग टू टॉक अबाउट दैट किंग ऑफ ऑल रूट्स called as the Silk Route. We are aware that कि ये Silk Route एक ऐसा रूट है जो which associates and which links Indian subcontinent with China and Mongolia on the one hand, and with the Central Asian countries, the Arab countries, and moving up to taking us to Turkey and Konya and leading us up to Europe. So it has always been a very great route. And a lot of cultural exchanges has taken place because of this route. A lot of economic trade has taken place with the help of this route, sorry. And you know that in the past history, this route has become a kind of a link of the Indian subcontinent with the world. So with this, I would like to invite Professor Akhlaq Ahan Sahab. Sir is the head of Center for Persian Studies as well as Center for Southeast Central Asian Studies in JNU. But more than that, he is a very known figure in the academic, intellectual world of India. He is continuously writing, he is continuously publishing his books and research papers on different subjects, multiple subjects of interest. I mean, Persian literature, which is his forte, of course, but he is a poet also, and he is a researcher also, and he's continuously writing about cultural aspects of our life and the life outside India also. So with all humility, with all sense of pride and sense of belongingness to Professor Akhlaq Ahan sir, I now request on behalf of all the participants, on behalf of the organizing team, मैं सर से ये आग्रह करता हूँ, रिक्वेस्टिंग सर कि सर अब ये प्लेटफॉर्म आपका हुआ और आप ये आपके बच्चे हैं सर, अब आप इन बच्चों से बजाते खुद बात करें. थैंक यू सो मच सर.
Thanks, Adab, and good morning to everyone. It is a great pleasure to be here on this forum and to share one of my most favorite topic on Rumi, and I have been working and fascinated by his poetry, his writing, his personality, and the whole world. A few years back, in 2008, around 400 international conferences were organized to commemorate his 800th birth century, and UNESCO had organized it. So he is a globally very popular poet, writer, thinker, a Sufi, and we know him. But I would like to, in the beginning, just start with one of his couplets in his Masnavi, and as Professor Yahya Ibrahim Saab uh, told us that he is one of the personalities who facilitate connecting people, civilizations around the world. And he says that तो बराए वसल कर द नामती ने बराए फसल कर द नामती, means, oh human being, you are here in this world to connect people, to facilitate the connection, the love among the people, and not to separate people. So this was the masses, and this is also required was required in his age, in his era, and even today and tomorrow. The world needs it, the love and affection among themselves. Uh, First of all, briefly, I would like to uh, introduce him and his life stories. As you know, that he was born around uh, the end of November 1207 in Vakht. It is a hamlet near Balkh. Uh, uh, Currently, it is in northern Afghanistan. And then there were some issues. Then his father migrated to Samarkand, Khwarazm, that is currently in Uzbekistan. And when he was around 8 years of then his family migrated to Iran, Nishapur, that is in the northwestern part of Iran, and was a great city of Sufis and academic institutions. So there he met a great Sufi of that time and all time, Fariduddin Attar. And Fariduddin Attar could foresee the spark in this child, and he also gifted one of his books to him. Then his father traveled and migrated to the Anatolian peninsula, that was the Eastern Roman part, and settled finally in Konya, where Roomi lived. And he is called Roomi because he was living in, and that part of the world was known as the Eastern Rome. And that's why his name is Jalaluddin Muhammad Balkhi, because he was born in Balkh. And he is popularly known around the world as Rumi. And his father was known as Sultanul Ulama, means the king of ulama, or the scholars. He was a great scholar. And by the time his father passed away in 1231, Rumi himself became a great scholar. And he was teaching there, and he was popular among his students, a scholar around the country and internationally. Then in his late 30s, around 1244, he confronted a mystic whose name was Shams Tabriz. And this confrontation, this was a mystic confrontation, and there is a story also, and that changed his whole life. And from being a mere scholar, a teacher, a writer, he became a mystic and a poet. A hidden poet came out of him, and he totally devoted to that. And he was in the company of Shams Tabriz for around 2 years, from 1244 to 46. And after that, incidentally, his master, his spiritual master, Shams Tabriz, and I will be talking about the mystery about this personality also, disappeared in 1246. And that separation brought a great agony, the spiritual agony, and the psychological agony to Maulana Rumi. And then he started writing and composing poetry, poems. Uh, and that's why we see his Ghazaliyat, his magnum opus Masnavi in 6 volumes, that is considered one of the greatest literary books or the poetry around the world. And within the mystic tradition or Sufi tradition, it is believed that this work of Maulana Rumi basically theorized Sufism. Sufism existed before him many centuries, and there were great poets like Attar, I just mentioned, Sanai, and others. And even Maulana says that Attar ruh budo Sanai do chashmeu maaz pae Sanai Attar anadim. Means Sanai was like the ruh or the soul of mysticism, mystic tradition or Sufi tradition, and Attar was like the two eyes of this tradition, and I follow them. But as a matter of fact, it was Maulana Rumi, by composing the 6th volume of his magnum opus Masnavi, he basically theorized this whole tradition, and hundreds, thousands of people later followed him. Let us now, with this introduction, come to the term Silk Route and how culturally, historically, this is important, and how Rumi's tradition is connected to this whole region connected by the Silk Route. As we know, and it was just mentioned, that Silk Route emanated from China and connected this whole region of Central Asia, Indian subcontinent, Iran, and the Eastern Rome, and to up to Istanbul, or the whole region, is from China to that region. And the region of origin, interestingly, an emergence of Maulana Rumi was traditionally, to a certain extent, similar to also the Buddhist expansion, because Buddhism, as we know, born in Indian subcontinent, in India, and was propagated in Central Asia and China and Eastern Asia. And similarly, Maulana, as we know, he was born in Afghanistan and later shifted to Kharazm and that area. And that area, like the northern and southern routes of the Indian subcontinent, the old road to Bactria, and passes way through the mountain valleys of northern contemporary Pakistan. Maulana's spiritual and philosophical impact centers developed distinctive spiritual cultures and played a great role in trans-regional exchanges. This term, Silk Route or Silk Road, uh, as we know, uh, the Trans-Asian Overland Network, uh, it is, uh, and it includes the various primary arteries. It is not one route. There are many arteries and sub-routes and secondary capillaries used for a range of commercial and cultural exchanges. And I always say that even the North Indian, particularly the Northwestern Indian region, was more connected to Central Asia than to the South India. Uh, and because of this Silk Route. So this was the importance of this whole region. Then we know that roughly this road extends from Rome to China, which includes Western and Eastern Central Asia, modern days newly independent republics, that includes Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and then Afghanistan. Uh, uh, and these are known as the Soviet Turkestan. During the Soviet period, it was known as. These routes, though sometimes not well defined or fixed routes, were utilized for spiritual and religious interactions, cultural relations, commercial exchanges, and political and military expansions. Therefore, though Silk Route commonly linked with sumptuous exchanges of commercial commodities in the region, but its cultural, historical, and socio-political importance has been equally significant throughout the ages, and still it is today very important. The looking at the relevance of Rumi's message and philosophy and its impact and legacy in historical context will be interesting. Rumi's and one thing I would also like to mention here, that this term Silk Route or Silk Road was first used by Ferdinand von Richthofen. He was a great German scholar and geographer as well. He termed this trans-Asian overland network as Silk Route or Silk Road in the late 19th century. So I also wanted to underline this term as how it started being used. Then Rumi's poetry and Silk Route, how it is connected. Though we know that, and as I mentioned, Rumi has now a global appeal, but traditionally he lived, studied, traveled, interacted, worked, and lived his legacy within and around the Silk Route region. He is rightly considered the cultural icon of many nations of the region besides Turkey, where he settled. He was born in the northern Afghanistan, Vaksh, Balkh. Incidentally, I visited that area, a major center of learning for centuries. Since thousands of the year. Recently, they celebrated 5,000 years of the establishment of Balkh. Uh, and Fortunately, I was also part of that project. It was brought up in a book form. Uh, and earlier, it was the center of Mithraism. Then it became the center of Zoroastrianism. Then it became the center of Buddhism. Then it became the center of Islam and Sufism. So during different periods, it has its own role in enriching civilizations and traditions. And it was also a major center of learning for centuries of scholars. And as a child, Maulana Rumi traveled uh, along with his father through Iran to Baghdad, that is in contemporary Iraq, and Damascus, that is the uh, capital of contemporary Syria, Arzinjan, Larenda, and to finally to Konya, that is in Turkey, and he settled down there. And his last resting place is that city where he finally settled down during the period of Seljuk Sultan, or the Emperor Alauddin Qayaqbad. Uh, it was the period of declining Seljuk Empire. So that was restricted to this area. And then that was, and it was basically the Eastern Roman area, and that's how he was known as, and Indian, he is known as Rumi, the person from the Rome. He grew up under the guidance of his father, Bahauddin Balad, who was known as Sultanul Ulama, and he was a great scholar and Sufi of that era. Besides, he also studied at Aleppo, and that is Halab, and Damascus, or Damashq, where he first encountered his great friend and spiritual guide, Shamsuddin Tabriz, to whom he had dedicated his collection of Ghazaliyat as Diwan-e Shams Tabrizi. His Diwan is known as Diwan-e Rumi, but it is the name is attributed to his spiritual master Shams Tabrizi. So it is known as Diwan-e Shams Tabrizi. His second encounter with the mystic at Konya is surrounded with mysteries, and many stories are narrated about it, which nonetheless changed the course of his life. Even the place of origin of Shamsuddin Tabriz is also not known. Different scholars have different opinions. And generally, since Tabriz is associated with his name, Tabriz is a city in Iran. Last year, I happened to visit that place, and it is also a great city of knowledge and poets like Balkh. And that's why people say about him he was Tabrizi, but many scholars believe and have their own opinions. For example, there is one Orientalist, J.P. Brown, and he writes in his book Darwishes, and calls him Kalandari, a wanderer, Darwish, or Sufi. While according to H.A. Rose, he is another expert on Sufism, that he was probably an Indian origin, Shams Tabrizi, and who himself identified him as the Shamsuddin Tabriz of Multan. So there is another Sufi called And according to Rose, he was that person, a great contemporary saint who got the sobriquet of Tabriz. Tab means heat, Riz yani pouring. The one who used to pour heat, or because of some incident, it was named. So because he brought the sun closer to that spot, that is associated anecdote with the Shamsuddin uh, Tabrizi Multani. There is another scholar, Rasi Guven. Uh, he supports this view, and he states that his father was Khawan Alauddin, who was an Indian and a new convert to Islam, and his name was Govind, a Sanskrit word, we know. But according to Tazkir-e-Daulat Shahi, a great Tazkira, hagiography of poets, he belonged to the family of Buzurg Umid, which ruled Alamut, that is in eastern Iran, a place near Qazvin. That is also a very old city and area. In 2015, I was there as visiting professor in Qazvin and stayed there for 6 months and traveled extensively in this whole area. That is very interesting. But his father secretly sent him to uh, uh, pursue education in Tabriz, and that's why he is known as Tabrizi, where he stayed for a long period and thus known as Tabrizi. So these are the views of different scholars. Though Shams Tabrizi popularly believed as a mere wanderer dervish, but it is historically not correct. He was a great scholar and he has written books. His famous book is known as Maqalate Shams Tabriz. And it was edited by the son of Maulana Rumi, whose name was Sultan Balad. Nonetheless, Rumi's first Sufi guide was Sayyid Burhanuddin Tirmizi. Tirmiz is also in Central Asia, and Shamsuddin Tirmizi is a great known scholar in the Sufi tradition. And he was also friend of his father, so he was the first one to guide him towards Sufism. But the total engagement with his Sufism happened with Rumi after he encountered Shams Tabrizi. Besides these two personalities, the two close associates of Maulana Rumi were Salahuddin Faridun Zarin Kub and Husamuddin Chelebi. As I mentioned that after 2 years of Shamsuddin Tabrizi with Maulana Rumi, he disappeared and he never again appeared. Many says that he was killed, many says he died, many says he disappeared. Nonetheless, this had a great impact on Rumi. Then these two personalities were basically his students and close friends also. So when you read these volumes of Maulana Rumi's Masnavi, these are divided into 6 volumes. The early 2 volumes are dedicated to Salahuddin Farid Zarin Kub, and the rest of the four volumes are dedicated to Hosamuddin Chelebi. So the latter was the inspiration for the composition of Masnavi, and therefore it is also known as Hussam Nama. So this book of 6 volumes, which comprises more than 26,000 couplets, according to some it is 40,000, and these are translated in many Indian languages, and including Urdu, Hindi, Bangla, South Indian languages, English. Yes, there are many translations of this, and around the world in different uh, languages. And in a way, it has impacted on uh, uh, all literatures of all languages in Indian subcontinent, uh, including Hindavi, including like poets like Jaisi, Kabir, Kutban, Ranjan, uh, Khusro, uh, even Tagore, Iqbal, who is known as the second Roomi, and many poets, and even the neo-religious. I will come to that. So, a historian and disciple of Maulana Rumi, who provides the most authentic informations about Maulana. He was Shamsuddin Aflaki, and he wrote a book, Manaqibul Arifin, in the year 1246, when Rumi initiated Maulvi order or dervishes. He rather people started calling it, and it was devised in a manner to attract people to spirituality and its exercises through art and music, which would finally develop a strive among them for the knowledge of divine mysteries. Though Maulana lived for more than a half century among the Turkey-speaking masses, but he wrote only in Persian. Nonetheless, his personality and poetry influenced Turkish poetry. And rather, the Turkish literature starts with the writings of his son, Sultan Balad, who becomes the first Sahib Diwan poet of Turkish literature. So, and set a new trend of spiritual poetry among the contemporary poets and poetry of Turkey language. This trend survived for a long period among the Turkish people, and though such poetry was not new in Persian language, and there were Sufi poets, as I mentioned, for example, in 10th and 11th century, Abu Sa'id Abul Khair, Khaja Abdullah Ansari, Fariduddin Attar, Sanai Ghaznavi, who had enriched Persian poetry with the spiritual discourses, as Maulana Rumi himself says, and I just mentioned, Attar Rubudu Sanai Chashmiu, Maas Pae Sanayu Attar Amati. Or he at another place says, Haft Shahre Ishq Ra Attar Gasht, Ma Hanuz Andar Pae Yakkuchain. Ya andar khame yakkuchain, means Attar traveled the 8 kingdoms of love or suluk or the spiritual stages, but we are stranded only on the turn of a lane, and that is his tribute to his masters. But as a matter of fact, Maulana took the Sufi Persian poetry to a new height and a greater stage, though, is Masnavi, as Professor Gibb, who has translated it, and he has worked a lot on Sufi tradition, This great poem, and I quote the writing of Professor Gibb, this great poem is one of the greatest and most noble in all Persian literature, which is in clear, simple language, but without apparent order or method. Discourses on the doctrine and aspects of the mystic philosophy and has for ages formed the textbook of the Sufi thinkers from the shores of Mediterranean to the wall of China. Professor Nicholson, who translated this poetry, uh, 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 who indeed opened up the ocean of Masnavi discourses to the English readers, goes on to say, the Masnavi represents the saint not only as a mirror of reality, but also a person is invested with divine authority and power, an indispensable guide on the way to God, a physician who can diagnose and cure diseases of the soul, a preacher of truth and teacher of law, the law of reverent obedience through which heaven was filled with light and the angels become pure and holy. And I would like to here underline one very interesting fact that, as we know, there are many orders of or silsilas of Sufis, like Chishtiya, like Shattariya, that is in Munir Sharif, or Chishtiya from Ajmer and many places. There is one very popular tradition also in India is Naqshbandiya tradition that has its origin in Bukhara in Central Asia. And the Sufis of Naqshbandiya Silsila used to read and explain the followers this Masnavi. So what Professor Nicholson says that this has enlightened people is very right. And when we talk of Maulana Rumi's legacy in Silk Route, we find many regions. And now countries are equally upholding the great tradition of understanding, emulating and following his spiritual, literary, and intellectual legacy. This shared reverence from Maulana was seen in 2007 when Afghanistan, Iran, and Turkey jointly proposed in UNESCO to celebrate 800th year of his birth anniversary. And I wish if we could also have been the part of this, because while working on Rumi, I found out that more than anywhere in the world, most of the commentaries on Maulana during last this 7-8 centuries were written in India. Only 45 only in Persian and in many other languages. So we equally inherit his tradition, and as I mentioned, it has impact on all Sufi Bhakti poetry of our country. This shared reverence for Maulana was seen in 2007 when yes, this was followed by grand national programs in all three countries, besides hundreds of seminars in these countries and around the world. According to Sepah Salar, Maulana Rumi had the opportunity to interact with all venerated scholars and Sufis of his era, which includes like Sheikh Muhyiddin Akbar, He is known as popularly known as Ibn Arabi, and he is the propounder of one of the two major Sufi philosophical tradition that is called as Wahdatul Wajud. And I should mention that it is a similar idea like our Vedant. So it is a very interesting philosophical debate. And Maulana Rumi had interactions with him. Rather, he was like his student. Sadruddin Hamavi and Sheikh Usman Rumi, Sheikh Awaduddin Kirmani, Sadruddin Punavi. These are the great names in the Sufi traditions. But the greatest legacy which connects beyond this and broadens this inheritance of the great legacy is his poetry in Persian. And I would also like to underline that during that period and until uh, 18th century, rather 19th century, mid of the 19th century, Persian used to be the lingua franca of whole Asia, from China to Indian subcontinent to Central Asia to Iran to other parts of Asia and even with the Europe. And it was rather replaced by English. So you know that in 1835, Lord William Bentinck uh, replaced Persian with newly born Urdu, and then after 1857 by English. So he knew that in Persian is a great language, it is a lingua franca of this whole countries. So he did it anyway. Uh, so, but the yes, and he himself says that Parsi go garche tazi khushtarast, ishq ra khud saz zabane digarast. That expressed in Persian, even if Arabic may be a superior language, love will find its way through hundreds of languages to get articulated. And this is what he has hinted about the popularity of Persian language and how it was connected with the local languages. Even all these modern Indian languages we know has the influence of Persian language literature, uh, Hindi or Marathi or Punjabi or Urdu or many other languages as deep influence of Persian language and literature. Even the word Hindi is Persian, or Hindustan or Hindu even is the Persian word. And then Punjab or Punjabi is a Persian word. And like many we use in our own languages. That is the reason why Maulana has been an iconic persona uh, in all Persian speaking countries. And a special bond has been established with the region. Maulana's contemporary and great Persian poet Sheikh Sadi, we know, who wrote Gulistan and Bostan, and he has been popular in India, and his books are the part of the textbook until today. So revered him, and he was his contemporary and paid profound tribute to him. Uh, in our country, similarly, Jami, a great poet, had written extensively on Masnavi and was a great follower of Maulana. Manqabatul Arifin mentions that once the king of Shiraz, Shamsuddin, wrote to Sadi asking him to send a sophistic ghazal which could be spiritually stimulant for him. So Sadi instead of sending his own ghazal, sent him a ghazal of Maulana Rumi, and which had become very popular among the qawwals of that time. The king was so inspired that he not only organized gatherings of Sama to sing the ghazal, but also sent Sadi to see Maulana and sent his regards to the poet. And the influence of Maulana Rumi could easily be sensed in the poetry of the later poets like Hafiz, like Haju, like Shah Nematullah Wali, like one poet in our region, Bu Ali Shah Qalandar. And I must say that Bu Ali Shah Qalandar was his direct student. He stayed with him for 2 years. And many others. Today, he is taught in all schools, colleges, and universities of these countries and now around the world. And some of the finest scholars of Masnavi during the modern times have come from the Persianate world, like Badiuz Zaman, Firuz Anfar, Jalal Naini, Professor Shabzwari, Dr. Abdul Karim Surus, and many others. Besides, Rumi is sung by both folk and formal musicians in this part of the world. And in our Indian subcontinent, Khalifa Abdul Hakim, Shibli, and others are the scholars who wrote about it. Uh, Now I will come to how we are connected. Indian subcontinent is connected with Maulana Rumi. As a matter of fact, bearing Sultan Walad, the son of Maulana and Ahmad Rumi, one of his students, no valuable commentary could be written in on Masnavi till 16th century, when the poets and Sufis of Herat school, now in Afghanistan especially, led by the great Sufi poet Abdul Rahman Jami and Mullah Yaqub Charkhi, wrote commentaries. And Mullah Yaqub Charkhi was from Kashmir, and later this tradition traveled to the Indian heartland. Around 40 extensive commentaries are written only in Persian language during the medieval India, and most of them are now kept in manuscript form in different libraries of the subcontinent. Among these Persian commentaries, especially three, I should mention: Asrarul Ghaib by Khaja Ayyub Lahori, Makhzanul Asrar by Wali Muhammad Akbar Abadi, and Sharh Masnavi by Abdul Ali Lakhnavi, who is also popularly known as Bahrul Ulum, are considered as the most valuable of work around the world, and these were written in India. Equally, a large number of such commentaries and tradition are done in Urdu, Hindi, Sanskrit, Bangla during the last 200 years, and many of them are very popular among the admirers of Rumi. Similarly, innumerable commentaries and translations are also done in other regional languages of the subcontinent. Many poets have written Masnavi in Urdu following the style and content of Maulana Bahrul Ulum. In addition to these commentaries and translation, books and articles on the life, philosophy, and legacy of Maulana Rumi is available in these languages. Rumi himself had imbibed deep influence of India and Indian tradition, and was in close contact with some of his Indian contemporaries, including his Sufi student Bu Ali Shah Qalandar. And he says in his Masnavi, even this Bakhtiyar Kaki and these Sufis of Chishtiya tradition were in his contact. Az Kalila Baz Khan in Qissera Vandara Qissa Talab Kun Hissera. Maulana Rumi says, read again the stories of Kalila or Damna, that is Panchtantra translation, and derive substances for your own enlightenment. So he hints that how he had studied Indian text, the poets and saints of Bhakti tradition, as I mentioned, and Sufis of our part of the world have imbibed, expressed in their poetry, and among the new religious traditions like Radha Swami, we know they extensively mention about Rumi and his poetry and like that. Maulana's legacy in the subcontinent would be probably left incomplete if we do not mention Iqbal, the great poet and philosopher of 20th century India. And he philosophically engaged with Maulana. Iqbal is a distinguished poet, philosopher with mystical visions, and he calls Maulana as his peer, his murshid, his spiritual master. And he says that Bekame khud digaran kohne riz ke ba jamash nayarzad mulk parvez. Pour that old wine, that is the Rumi's philosophy, in your orifice, as the goblet of him is more precious than the whole empire of King Parvez, that is Iran. Thank you. Thanks a lot. And I would welcome the questions and interactions. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Dear participants, the session is open, though we have not much time, but still we will take one or two questions. So feel free to unmute yourself. If you have any kind of query, inquisitiveness, or any question, please.
Good morning, sir.
Ji, please.
My name is Tanveer. I belong to the Department of Political Science in Karim City College. And sir, I want to know just that what inspired you, that who or what the theory of which person, like whom, that you continued to this side, this field. Like you are talking about like Rumi, about scholars, and what inspired you, sir, to study these things?
Since, as you know, that I am a student of Persian literature, and if you are a student of Persian literature, like if you are a student of English, you have to read Shakespeare, Milton, Byron, and like that. So similarly, being a student of Persian, I read Maulana Rumi's, and then I was in love with him, and then I started searching some new aspects which are not done. So that's how I started writing about it and working on it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other question, please? All right. Thank you so much, sir. I had Persian in my BA days at Aligarh.
Yeah.
And after that, I pursued my interest in Persian. But listening from a ustad of Persian, these beautiful couplets recited by you was a great thing for me, because बहुत अरसे के बाद कभी आज़रमी दुख्त सफवी और तारिक साहब से सुना था, अब आपके मुंह से सुन रहा हूँ. बीच में किसी उस्ताद की जुबान से फारसी शायरी और फारसी के बारे में इतना सुनने को नहीं मिला. तो it was personally a great day for me. But more than that, it was a great day for all of us, all the participants here, because this 1 hour lecture has, frankly speaking, sir, increased our spiritual thirst more. Because जिस तरीके से आपने, the way you have basically touched and hinted upon various topics and various subjects, right from Rumi's legacy and all that, to Shahara Resham, and lastly the link of India with Rumi, or khas karke the way you talked about Wahdatul Wajud and the Vedantic philosophy. So it was all, it basically is inspiring us to have more debate and more discussion and more talks on these subjects and these topics. We have with us our principal sir, Dr. Mohammad Riaz sir. मेरा और रियाज सर का यही समझौता हुआ था, because today we were having a lecture at 11 o'clock itself, and शायद आप जानते होंगे सर, Professor आफ्ताब साहब from JMI, Commerce and Management Studies, Professor Aftab from JMI. He was also addressing our management students. So sir was there to welcome him, and we planned that sir will be here to express and to propose his deep sense of gratitude and thankfulness towards you. So I welcome our principal sir, Dr. Professor Mohammad Riaz sir, to propose the vote of thanks. Dr. Mohammad Riaz sir.
Thank you, Yahya. Honorable Professor Ikhlaq and Central Dr. S.M. Yahya Ibrahim, Head PG Department of English, all faculty members, and my dear students. सबसे पहले मैं आज के हमारे रिसोर्स पर्सन प्रोफेसर इखलाक साहब का मैं कॉलेज मैनेजमेंट और अपने तमाम स्टूडेंट की जानिब से सर आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं कि आपने बहुत ही कीमती वक्त ही नहीं दिया, बल्कि मैं आपका लेक्चर सुन रहा था, बहुत जमाने के बाद एक बहुत ही अच्छा लेक्चर सुनने का मौका मिला। प्यारे स्टूडेंट्स, अभी सर जिस तरह की बातें कर रहे थे, रूमी, द सिल्क रूट एंड इंडियन सबकॉन्टिनेंट, तो आज इंडिया में हम समझते हैं कि रूमी साहब का कंट्रीब्यूशन या उन्होंने जो रास्ता दिखाया है, या उनके जो कारनामे हैं, खास करके सूफीज़्म में, और जिस तरह से सर ने जो बातें रखी, चाहे वो डिफरेंट सिलसिला मुजद्दिदिया, चिश्तिया, अमजदिया सिलसिला कंट्रीब्यूशन है, जो आज इंडिया के जो की आज सबसे जरूरत है, इसने इसके लिए बहुत, और साथ साथ जिस तरह से पर्शियन, हिंदी, उर्दू में मौलाना रूमी का जो कंट्रीब्यूशन रहा, और उसको भी जिस तरह से आपने बड़ी डिटेल से बयान किया सर, अभी प्यास मेरी जगी है। हम समझते हैं कि ये लेक्चर थोड़ा बड़ा लंबा होना चाहिए था, लेकिन चूंकि वक्त कम है, लेकिन सर आपने इतना तो है कि हमें झंझोड़ दिया है कि मौलाना रूमी जो है वक्त की जरूरत है और हमारे स्टूडेंट की जरूरत है, प्रेजेंट जो इंडिया का जो सिनेरियो है उनकी जरूरत है। जिस तरह से आपने पेश किया, इसके लिए मैं आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रगुजार हूं। और खास करके हमारे यहाँ स्पार्क सोसाइटी फॉर प्रमोशन ऑफ आर्ट एंड कल्चर इस तरह के जो लेक्चर ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं, और खास पीजी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ इंग्लिश दोनों मिल करके जिन्होंने किया, हमारे बच्चों के लिए किया, इसके लिए मैं आपका बहुत बहुत यहया साहब शुक्रगुजार हूँ। और हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि ये सिलसिला आगे भी कायम रहेगा, ताकि हमारे बच्चों के बीच इतने बड़े बड़े स्कॉलर्स के साथ बुला करके जुड़ना हमारे लिए थोड़ा मुश्किल हो रहा, बट ये ऑनलाइन, और कहें कि कोरोना का ये बून, जिसके वजह से हम सब इतने बड़े स्कॉलर से बहुत आसानी के साथ जुड़ जाते हैं, और इतने इम्पोर्टेंट जो विषय पे जो बातें हो रही थी, इसके लिए सर मैं आपका शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ। हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि आपका लेक्चर हम दोबारा फिर सुनेंगे। शुक्रिया सर।
इंशाल्लाह सर, इंशाल्लाह। जैसे मैंने कहा कि सर के लेक्चर में बहुत सारे और प्यास बहुत सारी जगाई है, और बहुत सारे टॉपिक्स की तरफ इशारतन सर हिंट करते चले गए हैं। तो वक्त रहा, मौका मिला, और आपकी सरपरस्ती रियाज सर अगर हम लोगों को हासिल रही, तो होपफुली विल बी इनवाइटिंग इखलाक सर वंस अगेन in our online lecture, as well that sir is coming down to Calcutta time and again, and so अगर हमें कभी खबर मिली कि अखलाक सर इस तरफ आ रहे हैं, ہندوستان کے اس خطے کی طرف آ رہے ہیں تو ہم لوگ کوشش کریں گے کہ سر سے بصر و چشم جڑا جائے. سو بہت بہت شکریہ سر, ہم تمام لوگوں کے شکر گزار ہیں. ایکسٹریملی گریٹفل ٹو آل اوور ٹیچرز, پروفیسر فخر الدین صاحب, سندھیا میم, احمد بدر صاحب, پرنسپل سر کے بھی بہت شکر گزار ہیں کہ سر آپ جڑے اور آپ نے اس طریقے سے ہماری کوششوں کو بھی سراہا. سو تھینک یو آل, تھینک یو آڈینس, تھینک یو ڈیئر اسٹوڈنٹس, ول بی میٹنگ سون ونس اگین. تھینک یو.
یہی ہے بھائی, ایک شکریہ آپ کا مجھ کو جڑنے کا. ایک اتفاق یہ بھی ہے کہ پرشین سے میرا سبجیکٹ رہا ہے, اور اخلاق بھائی سے ہماری ملاقات جو ہے شملہ میں ہوئی تھی 2005 میں. ایڈمنسٹریٹو یاد ہوگا سر, رضوان بھائی کے ساتھ تھے ہم لوگ 1 مہینہ کے لیے. اگر یاد, پرانی یادیں تو تازہ ہو گئی. اس ٹائم بال اتنے یہ نہیں تھے, زلف بہت زیادہ کھس گیا ہے.
ہاں ہاں. اور اخلاق بھائی جغرافی کے اسٹوڈنٹ رہے ہیں. ریاض سر بی اے میں اخلاق صاحب نے جغرافی پڑھی ہے.
جی ہاں, میرا پیپر جو تھا وہ جغرافی تھا, اور پرشین ایک آپشنل پیپر تھا. تو طارق صاحب ہمارے بھی استاد تھے, سید طارق صاحب, اور بعد میں وہ پھر ان سے قرابت داری بھی ہو گئی, اور پھر ہم اتفاقیہ طور پہ فارسی میں آ گئے جے این یو میں. اور پھر فارسی کے ہو گئے اور فارسی سے جڑ گئے. لیکن امید ہے کہ پھر کبھی ملاقات ہو. یہ تو ایک مجازی ملاقات ہے, کبھی کی ملاقات کا بھی کی صورت ہو. اور اس علاقے کی بڑی تعریفیں سنی ہیں, جمشید پور, رانچی اور ہزاری باغ کے علاقے. بہت سارے دوست احباب بھی ہیں. فخر الدین صاحب سے اتنے زمانے کے بعد ملاقات ہو رہی ہے. کوشش کر رہا ہوں کہ تو یہ انشاءاللہ پھر رہے گی ملاقات. اور بہت شکریہ کہ یہ ایک موقع رہا کہ انٹریکشن ہو.
جی اخلاق بھائی, شہباز عامل آپ کے جونیئر تھے یا پہلے تھے آپ سے؟
ہمارے ساتھ کے ہی تھے.
اچھا, شہباز اور ہم لوگ بیچ میٹ ہیں. ہم لوگوں نے +2 ایک ساتھ شروع کیا تھا علی گڑھ میں.
اچھا اچھا.
جی
جی جی. تو وہ دیر سے آئے ویسے, لیکن
ہاں وہ جے این یو بعد میں گئے. وہ جے این یو بعد میں.
اسٹوڈنٹ لائف میں تو ہم لوگ ساتھ کے ہی تھے,
جی
لیکن اکیڈمکس میں تھوڑی تاخیر سے آئے. تو
جی سر.
ہمارے ساتھ بدر صاحب بھی جڑے ہوئے ہیں سر, ہمارے کالج کے اردو کے پرشین کے بڑے اسکالر اور بڑے شاعر جمشید پور وہ بھی جڑے ہوئے ہیں سر.
ارے نہیں بھائی, اخلاق خان صاحب کے سامنے کچھ مت کہیے. ہم لوگ ان کے فین ہیں.
محبت ہے آپ کی.
ہاں, جس طرح سے آپ فارسی اشعار کو اردو کا جامع پہنا رہے ہیں آج کل جتنی آسانی سے, وہ واقعی حیرت انگیز ہے.
اتفاق جو ہے یہ کورونا پیریڈ میں ہوا کہ میں نے بہت سارا صوفیانہ کلام عربی سے بھی اور فارسی سے بھی, جیسے حضرت حسان بن ثابت کا, حضرت عبداللہ ابن رواحہ کا, ابن عربی کا, ابن خلدون کا, اور پھر فارسی شعراء کا, رومی, سعدی, حافظ, بیدل. تو تقریباً میں نے 100 صفحات ترجمے کیے ہیں. اس میں غزل بھی ہیں اور تمام چیزیں ہیں. وہ منظوم ترجمے کا ایک سلسلہ چل پڑا. یہ ہے کہ صبح کوئی شعر سن لیا یا پڑھ لیا تو پھر وہ اپنی طرف وہ کر لیتا ہے. اس کے علاوہ شاعری بہت ہوئی, اور یہ بڑا ایک اچھا رہا. اور آپ دیکھ رہے ہیں جس میں کوئی 5-6 ہزار کتابیں ہیں, اور یہی میرا کمرہ رہا, اور 2 سال اسی میں ہم بند رہے. تو یہ ایک اچھا موقع رہا کہ عام دنوں میں آدمی بہت ساری چیزوں میں انوالو ہو جاتا ہے, اسے ڈسٹریکشن بھی ہوتا ہے. لیکن اب اسے یہ بھی استحضار ہوا کہ ہمارے جو بڑے شعراء, صوفیاء, علماء تھے, جو جنگلوں میں بیٹھ کے یا خانقاہوں میں بیٹھ کے یا کہیں گوشے کنارے میں بیٹھ کے کام کرتے تھے. اور تو اس کے لیے ایک تنہائی کی بھی بڑی ضرورت ہوتی ہے.
بالکل بالکل.
تو یہ ایک نصیب ہوئی. مشکل دور تھا لیکن بڑا اچھا رہا.
ہاں, کم از کم اس کا ایک برائٹر سائڈ یہ بھی ہے,
جی
اس
جی
ڈارک ایج کا.
جی ہاں, جی ہاں, بالکل.
چلیے, بہت بہت شکریہ کہ آپ نے وقت دیا.
اور آپ سب کا بہت شکریہ کہ آپ نے ہمیں بھی جوڑا.
बहुत शुक्रिया सर, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
इंशाल्लाह आइंदा भी फिर जुड़ते रहेंगे।
जी सर,
जरूर सर, इंशाल्लाह इंशाल्लाह सर।
ठीक ठीक।
खुदा हाफिज सर।
खुदा
खुदा हाफिज।
हाफिज।
अल्लाह